All right, welcome to the Patriot Torch, and this is a special episode with the woman's perspective about abortion. Because I really wanted you, Janeth, to get, show all these women out there that are saying, I'm mansplaining. Okay, I'm mansplaining. I'm oppressing women, apparently, when I say that it's okay to ban abortions because I want to defend innocent life. Am I really oppressing women when I say I'm trying to save innocent life from being massacred?
No, it's a very weak argument to say that you're oppressing anybody's life at the end of the day. Like, you're not oppressing anybody's life. You're not oppressing a life. What does that even mean? You're not taking that person's life away from them. And ironically, the only person that's taking life away are those people who are promoting abortion, because they're literally and very physically taking life outside of the womb and then not allowing that person, that unique person, to live and live a prosperous life at all.
Yeah, I've had leftists tell me, they're like, oh no, it's these white male conservative men. It's white supremacy.
It's always white.
It's always the white supremacies in the government that are taking their rights away. They're saying the women's right is that we can abort kids whenever we want to because it's our bodies. Now, is it really is the baby really your body?
No, it's not. The baby is obviously not their body. It's a separate baby. Like, it's a separate human being. You don't have two sets of DNA.
Right.
And the fact that, Ethan told us, that his baby actually developed a heartbeat within 7 weeks.
Right.
Of Lorna being pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's amazing in itself. I didn't know that happened so fast. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it shows up so fast and people still want to allow third trimester, second trimester, or even first trimester abortions is crazy to me.
Yeah, when does it end? At some point we have to realize, like, hey, these babies have rights. Aren't they human beings like us?
Yeah.
Are they not, or are they just a clump of cells? Because I'm a clump of cells.
Well,
I'm a 24-year-old clump of cells.
Yeah, you are a 24-year-old clump of cells, developed and everything. You're just a clump of cells. Apparently.
So you can abort me?
No. I can't abort you because we're stuck for the long run.
I think it was called murder, right? I think it's called murder.
Domestic abuse. But it's more like, what am I trying to say? We just need to stop playing into the leftist, just crazy logic. Because, let's stop calling it abortion and start calling it what it really is, okay? I don't know why I remember when I first started looking into abortion, because I used to be pro-choice. Mm-hmm. Pro-choice.
Yeah, me too.
I used to be pro-choice because I actually used to be a thriving leftist. Mm-hmm. And I remember whenever I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, it should be up to the mother, blah, 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 blah. It should be a choice. I don't agree with it, but whatever. But at the end of the day, the only reason that people, because at that point, I knew that abortion was wrong. Mm-hmm. But the only reason that I was pro-choice was because I was, misled by the leftist, ideology of mm-hmm. what it actually is. Mm-hmm. Let's call it what it truly is. It's death. It's murder.
Death.
It's killing.
Right.
It's not, abortion is just a fancy word for killing. And it's not even just a fancy word. It's a dehumanizing word. It takes what it really is and makes it less evil, less evil.
That's
but it's not really.
Exactly. That's why they're afraid of saying it's a baby.
Yeah.
People literally don't want to say it. It's a fetus. I had this article. I saw this article written by somebody on the internet, a leftist, that was saying, this baby is a prenate. She made up a word, prenate, meaning before birth, so that she didn't have to say baby, so that she can make people realize what it really is. Oh yeah, sure. It's a human being. It's not a prenate. It's not a clump of cells. It's literally you, because you used to be in that place. I used to be in the womb. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden they make a new name for what I am, and then they can kill me. What? So all of a sudden, magically, when you're outside of the womb, all of a sudden you're this human being.
Well, honestly, that's what the left is all about. The left is all about this centralized public education bureaucracy where, you know, you make all these fancy words, make yourself feel fancy, like you're upper class, and you know what you're talking about because you're using all of these long and educated words, but at the end of the day, you're just a pseudo-intellectual.
Yeah, fake words to try to... And the funny thing is, I debate a lot of leftists online about this subject, and at some point, when I keep questioning the logic, at some point they break down. They literally break down and they say, just shut up. Just literally just shut up.
I've done that before.
They're just like, oh, you're ignorant, you're stupid, and it's like, whoa, you're resorting to name calling here.
Yeah.
That means that you're not having an actual argument here.
Yeah.
Your logic has ended, and now it's your emotional attack.
Well, that's honestly what that is. It's almost like a sort of like fight or flight sort of instinct, because anybody here who's ever had an argument with with anybody, when you like literally know that you're wrong and you know it, but you don't you haven't completely grasped it because you don't want to allow yourself to grasp it because you want to be right, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when there's no evidence to back up what you're saying, what you end up doing is just telling the other person to shut up,
right?
Because then that you feel like you're ending the conversation, like you've got the upper hand because you're controlling the conversation.
Right.
But it's just a defense tactic to keep themselves from realizing that they're wrong. Because some people, or a lot of the people in this generation, in a lot of the recent generations, have basically... We're just full of ourselves, we're too conceited. We don't want to admit when we're wrong. And I've literally done this before. Like you know for a fact, I'll be arguing with you, and then I literally have nothing else to say, and I just start saying like, shut up, Marco, shut up, and like blah 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 blah, and you're dumb or whatever, and then a few hours later I'm like, you know what? I was actually wrong.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
I'm not, that's not to make me look like, oh, I'm always right. And
I'm sure you've done it before too. Everybody does it.
We've all been, but
I've been conditioned to do it.
Yeah, we've been conditioned to do it. We need to realize, that logic is beyond us. There's a real truth to the universe. There's a real truth to reality. Whether we realize it or not, it's still there. And sometimes, people that have a big ego, they want to get to the point where they're always right. It's not even as important as actually being right. It's more important that they feel right. Mm-hmm. Because, at some point, there comes a time when we realize that something's right, even if we're wrong about it. Then I like to change my view if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I want to change my view so that I can be right. But I notice that sometimes some people just don't want to get to that. And then they start insulting each other. Yeah. And I've done that before too. But I really stopped doing it because I was like, you know what, that doesn't work. Insulting is not going to work because that means you don't actually have a real logical argument. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I noticed that's been happening. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you think about them talking about, for instance, rape, right? Rape.
Yeah.
They say, because it becomes an emotional thing. Oh, you're gonna, you have to sympathize with the women that are raped. Like, you're not gonna sympathize with them by banning abortions? It's like, wait. Of course I sympathize with women that are raped. It's terrible. But killing the baby doesn't mean that you're sympathizing. That doesn't mean that you care about them if you let them kill a baby. That doesn't make you feel better that you killed the baby, right? What do you think?
Well, like I said, society has just been conditioned to quick fixes and not, that obviously is not the solution, because I'm sure that a lot of these women who have had rapes, have been raped and then kill their baby after that. I'm sure that a lot of them aren't truly happy after that because you realize, like I said, just like in any other killing, you realize that was a life. And at the end of the day, just because somebody wronged you, it doesn't mean that you literally kill an innocent life just because they were the product of that.
Right, the product of that. The father is the one the rapist, right? Mm-hmm. They go to jail. They get punished. That's normal. That's good that they get punished for.
Yeah.
It's a part of our law.
It's not the baby's fault.
It's not the baby's fault. Why should the baby, the innocent life that did not commit a crime, now they have to pay for the father's crime?
That doesn't make sense.
It's
something that the mainstream is just really like bent on always blaming the wrong person and blaming somebody that honestly shouldn't be blamed. At the end of the day, the only person that should be blamed for a crime committed is the person that committed the crime. And it's the same thing with gun control. They try to blame guns, but it's at the end of the day, it's the criminal that committed the act, not the gun. The gun is just an inanimate object. It's something that's very like common in the mainstream like arguments.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, okay, but then they say, the leftists, the Democrats, they say, well, the baby is dependent on the woman's body. They have to live off the woman, so that means they're allowed to be killed. They're not real. They're not viable.
Well, that argument's obviously illogical.
It's illogical.
Because the baby, that I think what they mean is that, you know, the baby, if the baby is ripped out of the mother, it won't be able to survive if it was premature, like too premature. Which, I mean, I get to an extent, but you're not even being logical because I've heard that argument before, and they'll say that they can't survive on their own. It's just like, that's dumb, because any human being, like a baby, after they were born, wouldn't be able to survive on their own either.
Yeah,
you know, they can't even crawl, they can't even lift their heads up, they can't even feed themselves, they can't even tell somebody if they're hurting or if they're hungry or need a diaper change.
Right. The baby
so
can't
So
survive.
does that mean you can kill them because they can't survive on their own?
Right.
I mean, I know what they're trying to say, but even that doesn't really make sense.
It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. They can be 4 or 5 years old and they can't survive on their own. So now they can kill a 4 and 5 year old. That logic breaks down immediately when you start thinking about it. And so that's also important. And also the topic of disabilities and finding justification to kill someone over a disability, for example. And what do I mean? Like incest, right? I've had people question me like, oh, you support banning abortion even from incest? Are you kidding me? But when you think about it, it's like, of course, I'm not promoting incest. I'm against it. It's terrible. It's horrible. But what I'm saying is, incest, it results in a child, and then so their justification is, since the child is born from incest, it's very likely for it to have disabilities and mental problems and physical problems. They might not live that long. That means that you can just kill them. Is that how do you feel about that? Is that make sense to you, that you can just kill a baby because they might be disabled?
I honestly, how I feel about that is that it just makes me very sad and honestly makes me feel a little bit sick because, I know a disabled kid. He is very fond to me. He is such a beautiful person and brings so much happiness every time I see this kid, this little disabled kid. He's actually my cousin. If he was ever aborted, I would hate for somebody to have ever thought at any point that his life meant anything less than my life, because at the end of the day, he makes me and my family very happy. Yeah. He's a beautiful person, human being that God made, and his life should not be just because people have disabilities, they should not be targeted. And it's just so wrong and disgusting to target people because they may or may not have a disability. Even if they do have a disability, they should not be killed. That's complete genocide, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, it reminds me of what the Nazis did. Because the Nazis, they blame the right wing for being Nazis, when really there's so many similarities with the Nazis and the left. I mean, the Nazis were the ones that were saying, oh yeah, if they're disabled, they need to be executed. If they're gay, if they're blah, they come up with all kinds of reasons why someone shouldn't live. Mm-hmm. But how can you let humans decide who gets to live? Then it causes massacre, because humans don't have that enough. They don't have the right to do that, basically, mm-hmm. because in our Constitution, not just in religious reasons. I mean, if people are not religious and they're looking at this, you're also looking at the Constitution of this country that says you don't have you can't take away the right to someone to live. And how can they say, oh, just because they might have a disability, that then they shouldn't live? Or are they saying, of course, the kid's going to go through hell. The kid's going to live a terrible life. It's like, how do you know that? How do they know that the kid's going to have a terrible life and to just assume things and think that their life is meaningless to live?
They don't. People in this society, the culture is all about every person being right, every person being their own God, every person dictating their own morals and whatnot, and being very tolerant, except for people who disagree with you, on things that are, minorities and whatever, But at the end of the day, it's just crazy,
It's like they don't see the beauty of life.
They don't
see the beauty of life. I mean, they're saying, the Democrats and the leftists are saying, oh, if the world isn't perfect here, then the child shouldn't be born. The world has to be perfect first. Oh, you right-wingers, you promote life and stuff, but you don't want to help the kid after they're born and help them with all this blah, blah, blah.
It's like, very not true. That's not true at all. That's not true. There's actually organizations in the Charlotte area that are pro-life organizations and actually do offer assistance with adoption and trying to get the child after they have been born to get them adopted, and there actually are organizations out there that are pro-life and do that, and it's actually pretty big in the Charlotte area.
Yeah, there's so many things. Oh, but they say that doesn't exist. Oh, there's no help from anybody. Oh, these babies they're all gonna suffer. And I even got to the point where I got one of my friends that was debating me on this to say, oh, well, I know that the majority of them are going to suffer, so that's why it should be allowed. Well, whoa.
Well, that person is honestly so out of touch with reality. Like, we have just become so out of touch with the reality of life and so out of touch with true happiness, because I am not a very rich person. I didn't grow up in a rich environment. I grew up honestly, I'm not saying that I grew up like in the slums. I always was privileged to always have, food and stuff. But my life isn't any less than anybody else's life. I'm glad that I'm alive, and my parents would never have ever aborted me because they're Christians, obviously. And, I don't think that any other person in the slums, that because they might have a hard life, or maybe they will have a hard life, they don't deserve to live. That's just crazy. Why does a person's life, because whether they're rich or not, why does that determine whether they live or not? And the ironic thing is that these are the same people spouting this whole bullshit about the 1% being evil and taking all our money. It's like, but you're at the same time discriminating against people who are poor. That's really ironic.
That's interesting. That's interesting because they're always going back to the whole women's rights so that they can feel like they're somehow fighting a tyranny of being oppressed for who they are. Right? That's really what the leftists are doing. It's always about, oh, you're black, you're a minority, you're a woman being oppressed, and everyone's being oppressed by the white supremacist 1%. Oh yeah, well, Bernie is making $1 million a year, and the 1%, all you have to do is make $420,000 a year. So Bernie is like way past the 1%, and he's the one saying the 1% is evil and everything. It's like, well, you're saying you're evil. Okay, and this is kind of a deviation from the topic, but you brought it up, and it kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like going back to the subject,
it's just crazy when you realize that, though, because these are the same people spouting that the rich are so evil, rich are so bad, and that even though some of the rich people are the ones that are making this country thrive, creating more jobs, and then people becoming more rich. But ironically, at the same time, these people are spouting hate towards people who are poor and saying that people who are poor don't deserve to live a life. That's crazy and just so hypocritical.
Well, they're saying what they're saying also is that they might disagree and be like, well, I'm not saying that you don't get to live. It's just that since the life is so hard, you should have the choice to abort your child. It's like, well, hold on. The child has a right to life. You don't just get to choose when someone gets to live or not.
And in that argument, I mean, honestly, if you really don't want to have the child, then just put it up for adoption. If you feel like this child is going to be such a burden, just put it up for adoption. Like, don't be sitting here acting like God and thinking that you're going to be happy for the rest of your life because you abort a child. Because that's not what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of consequences mentally and physically that anybody that aborts a child will have. And honestly, there's polls out there that about 30% of people, of women who get abortions, actually start to regret their abortions within just 2 years of having that performed.
All right, hey everybody. So yeah, Janeth, you were saying that the women that were regretting the abortions after a couple of years or so, there's like 30%, right?
Yeah, about 30%. It's actually 28%, but yeah, just about 30%. Of women who have had abortions performed, they regret it just within 2 years of them having the abortion performed, which I think the fact that there is so many people that are regretting the abortion just goes to show how these abortion clinics are not promoting the full facts of what abortion is. And they're just giving it a one-sided view of it just seeming like a regular procedure. And that's literally what a lot of people think. They literally think it's just some sort of procedure you go and get done. Like as if you're just going to go get some medicine.
Just tear the babies apart into little pieces. It's really normal. It's like going to, McDonald's, get a burger.
Yeah, so that's basically what that is, and that's just insane.
And of course, they always blame it on the white conservative men in the government. That it's all the white men that are saying you need to ban abortion. No women are supporting this. Oh, well, I think I have an example right here of a woman that understands the importance of saving babies' lives, right?
Yeah.
And now, they're always saying...
And here's another thing, that I know you were talking about that earlier, is the fact that, all these government officials are being voted in by women. So they reflect what women are believing and men are believing in. It's not just these men are literally the mainstream culture tries to make us think that these men that are in Congress or are in our government have just no sort of resemblance to what we believe in, but in actuality, these people are voted in. Our senators are voted in. The House is voted in. Everything is voted in.
Right. The women are the ones voting for these representatives to represent them and pass these bills banning abortion. Mm-hmm. It's not just men just all of a sudden pop out of nowhere. Is it women's? Is it the man's fault that not enough women are running for office? That doesn't make any sense. They're voted in by women, and so they happen to support those ideas, and in that way ban abortion. In many cases, of course, with some exceptions, like if like in Alabama, if the baby is going to kill the mother or has a high risk of causing major damage to the mother, then that's the only exception, which I understand that. But as far as all the most other exceptions that I've heard of, they don't really count because it's not endangering anyone's life.
I mean, why? It really isn't endangering anybody's life to be passing these bills that are actually preventing abortions at certain points of the pregnancy to happen. But what's crazy is that people want to ban Alabama. I don't know if you've noticed these trends that have the trending on Twitter. It's been saying ban Alabama or ban Georgia, which makes no sense because it's not doing any harm. It's actually doing a lot of good because it's protecting lives. But I don't hear anybody saying ban California when they're actually endangering plenty of people's lives by having sanctuary cities in California.
Yeah, exactly. Like Cory Booker saying, "Oh, yeah, don't bring the migrants, illegal immigrants, to our city. It's going to be dangerous." It's like, whoa, you just admitted that what your whole policy is dangerous because you don't even want it. You don't want Trump to send all these illegals to your city. Well, that's what you wanted in the first place. So it's just there's so many contradictions in the leftist mentality. It's incredible. Like, I'm just amazed that it's always about them being oppressed. Meanwhile, they're oppressing innocent children that are being massacred. They're not letting them live. They think it's okay that you can get rid of them. But meanwhile, they're being oppressed by white males.
So I think the biggest solution, and I see it happening right now, is the fact that there are so many people getting involved in the pro-life movement and having discussions about it. The fact that there are so many people like hating on all these really good things that are happening in Alabama and Georgia and in different states throughout the country, these people are actually causing this to for this to like just basically get more traction, because that's how Trump got voted in. People kept hating on him, but everybody saw through the fake lies about Trump, and that's why he got voted in.
Yeah, it's also
it's just getting more attention to a subject that needs to have more attention to, and eventually I know that we eventually will get to a point where we make a huge stride in this fight to end abortion.
Yeah, it's like a wildfire going across the country now, with all these different states doing it.
Yeah.
North Carolina should be next.
Yeah, it should be next. I mean, we need to get involved. Like, that's the next solution, is that we as North Carolinians need to get involved locally in with any organizations that are pro-life and are fighting for human life and for babies' lives, because our governor is anti-life. Our governor is literally anti-life. If you are pro-choice, you are anti-life, because you're allowing for anybody just because it's the woman's choice, that means that it's okay to kill a life, and that's not right. So
I mean, they have a right to life. It's in our Constitution.
Yep.
They should be able to live their life. You can't just say, oh, they're going to have a bad life, so what's the point of letting them live? Just kill them all. Yeah. It's like, that's ridiculous. That's like total insanity, and kind of, it's like what they did in Nazi Germany. I mean, they could, I made the analogy, like, look, that's the same excuse that they could use towards Jews back in Nazi Germany. Oh, they're going to suffer in their life, so why don't we just get rid of all of them?
Yeah.
They could make the same excuse. It's essentially the same thing, but they make it look like it's this woman's right thing. No. Women don't have right to kill other people. It's so simple. But of course, when they try to deny that it's a human life that they're killing, that it's some kind of fetus or parasite or some kind of clump of cells, they try to dehumanize it totally so that they have the right to do it. But look, it's not the end of the world to have a baby, is it? No. Your life is not going to end if you have a baby.
It's not. All these people, many people have had babies in situations where they're not, economically sound, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, everybody makes it work. It's not the end of the world. And all I can say is that, we need to stand up. We need your help. Everybody out there to stand up and start voicing your opinions. Please like, share, and subscribe our videos. We need our videos to be, if you want to show people that North Carolina is not for ending lives and is for protecting lives, as opposed to our governor Roy Cooper, then please like, share, and subscribe this video and make it spread like a wildfire, because we need Roy Cooper out of office, and we really need to start saving lives and protecting these innocent babies that aren't able to protect themselves. Thank you so much, you guys, and have a great day.
All right. Good night.